Hello, how are you, Annie?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
doing great.
Okay, we are going to be doing our death penalty presentation. So, what is the death penalty?
Well, the death penalty, also known as capital punishment, is the government's authorized execution of criminals.
Interesting. Why do we have the death penalty? Well, the purpose of the death penalty is to provide incapacitation, deterrence, and retribution.
Incapacitation is one of the important ones. If people feel unsafe, they are going to demand an offender is kept away. If the offender is known to be a gruesome killer who is officially convicted, people will be more shocked. The public's fear on a criminal recidivating or be released back into society will also affect what they want their lawmakers to do. Lawmakers will work towards putting certain legislations in place that affect the prosecution of criminals. Their actions also reflect how the criminal justice system will work in deterring criminals.
Very interesting. So, what states use the death penalty? Currently, 29 states have the death penalty and 4 states have a moratorium. The use of the death penalty has declined sharply in the United States over the past 25 years. New death sentences have fallen more than 85%, a whole 85%, since peaking at more than 300 death sentences per year in the mid-1990s. Executioners have declined by 75% since peaking at 98 in 1999.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah.
What does the person have to do to get the death penalty?
Well, the person has to be charged with murder, or in some states, it is possible to receive the death penalty if someone participated in a felony in which death occurred to be charged with murder. A good example of who the death penalty is applied to is found in Kennedy v. Louisiana. Kennedy v. Louisiana established that only cases where the offender directly killed the victim can be given the death penalty.
Wow, that's actually really important.
Yes, it is. How long has the death penalty been practiced?
It dates as far as the 18th century BC in the Code of King Hammurabi of Babylon, which codified the death penalty for 25 different crimes. The death penalty was also part of the 14th century BC's Hittite Code in the 17th BC's Draconian Code of Athens, which made death the only punishment for all crimes. In the 5th century BC, Roman law of the 12 tablets, death sentences were carried out by such means as crucifixion, drowning, beating to death, burning alive, and impalement.
Wow, that's horrible. I can't believe that we've come this far. So what about some of the death penalty qualifications?
Well, according to Roper versus Simmons, decided that a person must be at least 18 years old and be convicted of a crime in which someone was killed. State legislatures have the right to decide what specific circumstances make the murder eligible for the death penalty. And they also must be mentally competent as determined by Atkins versus Virginia.
That's interesting. I noticed that in Roper v. Simmons and Atkins v. Virginia, they're both based on mental capacity of the offender. If an offender is under the age of 18, their brains are not yet fully developed, thus making them less capable of making well-thought-out decisions and should not be held responsible to a person who can. That is often found if the offender is deemed to have a mental disorder. If they have a mental disorder, they are not capable of making well-thought-out decisions and should be not held responsible to a person who can. How is the death penalty carried out?
The death penalty is carried out through various methods, the most common being lethal injection. Other methods include electrocution, lethal gas, and the firing squad.
Wow, that's insane. So what is lethal injection? The U.S. uses lethal injection as their primary method of execution. There are protocols employing 1 to 3 drugs. Most 3-drug protocols use an anesthetic or sedative, followed by a drug to paralyze the inmate, and finally a drug to stop the heart. The 1 and 2 drug protocols typically use an overdose of an anesthetic or sedative to cause death. Although the constitutionality of the lethal injection has been upheld by the Supreme Court, the applications used in the states continues to be challenged prior to each execution. it is increasingly difficult to obtain the drugs used in earlier executions.
States have resorted to experimenting with new drugs and drug combinations to carry out executions, resulting in numerous prolonged and painful executions. States are also turning to previously discarded forms of execution, such as electric chair and gas chamber, in the event that lethal drugs cannot be obtained. When one of the drugs called sodium thiopental became increasingly scarce, execution began looking for pentobarbital. When the pentobarbital was also became harder to obtain, executioners began to use midazolam.
Midazolam, a benzodiazepine. It was when midazolam was used that an increase of botched executions began to occur, soon leading to Glossop v. Gross. Is the lethal injection painless? Well,
there has been no scientific data to demonstrate that lethal injection is painless. There has been little research on the actual effects that the lethal injection has on a person. However, what is science is available suggests that inmates feel an intense amount of pain before passing.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I think that's still not as painless as they want it to be.
Who is present during an execution? In California, by law, the warden must be present. The warden must also invite 2 doctors, the attorney general, several peace officers, and at least 12 reputable citizens and the immediate family of the victim or victims. Wow, imagine watching your family member be executed.
Yeah, that's actually very sad.
Are there flaws in the execution process?
Yes, there is always the chance that the execution could be botched. This could result in unimaginable pain to the inmate, causing a horrific scene. If these botched executions reach the media, this could cause the public to no longer trust the criminal justice system.
It is estimated that 3% of U.S. executions in the period from 1990 to 2010 were botched. Even with 3% being botched, this creates a higher discomfort and lower trust levels between the citizens and their government. Imagine being one of those viewers in the observation box. How horrible.
I'd probably keep my eyes away.
What are the conditions for people living on death row?
A prisoner that lives on death row is often held in solitary confinement for a lengthy period of time. Because they spend so much time alone in solitary confinement, they often suffer multiple kinds of mental illness. There is a lot of controversy surrounding death row because of the possibility of innocence. While an inmate is on trial for a capital case, they are kept on death row. These trials can go on for years, leaving the inmate in these horrible conditions for an extensive period of time. If the inmate is determined to be innocent at the end of the trial, they are unfortunately going to be re-entering society as a less
capable member of society. A quote came from someone who lived on death row. I miss the stars. You know, I haven't seen the stars in the years and the years. I miss the rain. I miss the food. I miss all these things. But what it comes down to most, and this is the thing that will scar me the most, that I'll carry with me as the scar the longest. The thing I miss the most is being treated like a human being. How horrible.
Wow. I can't imagine not being able to look at the sky every time I go outside.
I know. So does capital punishment establish retribution?
Yes, it does.
Wow.
Technically, the death penalty does establish retribution, but how do we define retribution? Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines retribution as payback. The victims themselves don't personally participate in the action, but the government or the state does instead as a consequence for violating their laws. Regardless, the action is still being punished for a wrongdoing. We could argue that it doesn't because people don't personally execute anyone, yet there's a reason for this. We have the criminal justice system so people don't go an eye for an eye.
Wow. Who does the death penalty mostly affect? As of 2016, it was predominantly Black. As of 2019, the most affected races are white and Black, Latinos following in third place, and all the other races after. Earlier in the 20th century, when it was applied for the crime of rape, 89% of the executions involved Black defendants, most for the rape of a white woman. In the modern era, when executions have been carried out exclusively for murder, 75% of the cases involve the murder of white victims, even though blacks and whites are equally likely to be the victims of murder. How much does sentencing someone to death cost?
The death penalty costs significantly more than the life without parole sentence, mainly because of the lengthy trial period. The trial period is longer because of the
legal costs, pretrial costs, jury selection, trial, incarceration, and appeals are all ways that death sentences cost more than life without parole sentences. Why do some people support the death penalty?
Some people believe in an eye for an eye approach. They deserve it, and nothing will stop them from recidivating. They also do it to set an example. And some people also believe it's a fair punishment because it serves justice.
Just under 54% of Americans say they support the death penalty, and 39% say they are opposed, according to the results of a Pew Research poll released in June 11, 2018. Why do some people oppose the death penalty?
Well, some people believe the death penalty is cruel and unusual and denies due process of law. Others believe it violates the constitutional guarantee of equal protection. Also, that it's not a viable form of crime control as it wastes limited resources. And other people also oppose it because of wrongful convictions. The cost is very high, botched executions, and racial discrimination.
And that is our presentation on the death penalty. I hope you guys enjoyed. In the attached in the description box is a video that further talks about the death penalty if you wanted a better visual about the topic. Thank you guys.
Have a good day.
Enjoy finals.